So welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I would like to talk about boundaries. And I feel like it's another very important topic that a lot of us are actually struggling with setting boundaries. And again, I will give you some examples in a bit about my own life. So you can maybe relate to that or relate other situations in your life to what I'm going to talk about here. But I think we all know what a boundary is, but a lot of people struggle to set boundaries. And you feel that uncomfortable feeling inside you if you say yes to something, and inside you, actually, there's some resistance towards it. Really easy example that happens, I guess, to all of us is when you are invited to something, and inside of you, you feel like actually you don't want to say no. Yes, actually, you don't want to say no, but you say yes out of politeness. But this is just a very simple and light example that doesn't have a huge impact on you. But I mean now setting boundaries about that you cannot set because you fear of what the other person thinks of you. Because what boundaries, why you struggle actually to set boundaries, is more because you fear of what the other person thinks, or you fear maybe they will leave you, they won't love you anymore, they will be disappointed, or they will get angry with you. And this is why you struggle to set boundaries, not because you don't know how to set them, but more because you worry about what the other person thinks or how the other person perceives what you are wanting to say for yourself. And I want to talk about as well what boundaries actually are, because they are not about controlling someone else or wanting to change another person. A boundary has nothing to do with the other person, even though the other person might take it personal. This is actually another topic I can start talking about, how to not make things personal, because nothing ever is about you in most cases. But anyway, let's stick to the boundaries. So it's never about wanting to control someone else if you set a boundary for yourself. It has everything only to do with yourself and your own well being and what is in alignment with you, right? So, a boundary is basically just communicating what you are willing to participate in and what you are not willing to participate in. And it's only in alignment with your values, with what you resonate with, and what feels like good for you and what doesn't feel good for you. It's never about the other person. But I get it, and I've been also on the other side where, and this is why I understand it, that we all feel like, what if I say this is not for me, or that I actually want to do something else? Of course, we care how the other person perceives it, but you are not uh, responsible for the other person's emotions. You have to stay in your own emotional area. You only worry about your own emotional field. And I know it does sound a bit selfish, but it's in a way always a matter of how you communicate things. I personally think you can say anything what you want, but it's always a matter of how you say things and making sure that the other person, if you really care, of course, about the person, you would want to make sure it lands in a nice way. But then it's up to the other person how they perceive it. And if they want to act insulted and not understanding, then that's up to them. That's none of your business anymore. You've done your job. I know it sounds very harsh, but I just wanted to first of all explain what a boundary actually is, and that it's more about taking responsibility for yourself. And the reason why we actually struggle with boundaries is because of our upbringing from our parents. And of course, it's not their fault. It's just something that was carried over from generation to generation. And it's something like you probably can remember when you were a child and you were told to be nice, to behave well, to say thank you. And that kind of has taught you to be nice and not really think about, do you want this right now or do you actually not want it? But when you are, I'm gonna stick to the relationship example because it's most common. If you want to discuss something where one person feels that way and the other person feels that way about something, about a certain situation, then I think it's the most natural and most amazing thing actually to have an open conversation about this and speak about each other's boundaries. It's also a really nice way to get to know each other. And it's not about not being able to keep the peace, because not being able to keep the peace and keeping quiet will just lead to resentment and will lead to you exploding one day and losing it all, because eventually you will realize that you didn't speak up, and it just leads to extreme dissatisfaction inside you. And this is why speaking up and addressing your boundaries is so important, even if it's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It's necessary to live in alignment with who you truly are. And I did mention earlier why we probably avoid setting boundaries. It's because of the fear underneath. But then there's also another thing why you are avoiding to say really what you want and to set the boundary. And that is because there is a guilt that comes afterwards when you say no. And that guilt is often where you start to carry over the emotions from the other person. And trust me on that, because I personally have never really struggled with setting boundaries with my friends or my family. A little bit with my family, but it wasn't to that extent to when I started to learn to set boundaries in my partnership. Because for me, like, I have to admit, I'm a bit selfish when it comes to my um, family or friends circle. I am very much aware of what I like and what I don't like, and I don't have a problem to communicate that. But when it comes to my partner, I would do anything for my partner. And this was sometimes the time where I would forget myself and where I would not speak up, either to keep the peace or because I wouldn't want him to feel that I don't care. And this was the most difficult part also, when I had to admit honestly how I feel truly in the relationship and speak up and say how I feel. And you maybe you can imagine, but personally I was like, wow, the emotional load that I took from my partner at the time onto me. I had so much guilt for saying how I felt that afterwards I kept on checking in with him. Are you okay? Why are you so quiet? And maybe it sounds familiar to you, but this is something why we avoid speaking up and setting a boundary, because it's very difficult to tolerate the guilt that comes afterwards. And I hope that this awareness will help you to find for yourself a way to still speak up, to still say, because just remember, you can say whatever's on your heart. And I want to also add to that, because if the other person on the other side doesn't understand where you are and how you feel, then yeah, I have to be careful what I'm saying, because not everyone has this awareness also in the beginning. So it's, look, you can say whatever you want. This is my honest belief. And it's just a matter of how you say things, right? Then, if you speak up and you say whatever is in true alignment with your heart and your soul, then the other person, it's their responsibility at the end of the day, how they perceive it. And if they take it in an insulted way, even though you have been nice about it and you have been understanding also that maybe it hurts them, but you cannot continue to live like this because it really drains you, or it is just not with who you truly are, then there's nothing else you can do. And then it's your turn to regulate your emotions through breath work, through nature, connecting with nature, or whatever you want to do. But it's just having the awareness, and then also accepting the fact that you kind of have to be honest with yourself how you feel, and communicating that in an honest and fair way. And then it will show how the other person will act. And a lot of times you will then learn, and this is probably also the time where how I learned to set my boundaries, because we have to learn it the hard way. We get disappointed by people, and then we start to have this experience, and it will repeat and it will repeat until you learn your lesson, and you say to yourself, next time, until here and no further, right? And I think we've all at some point experienced this, and it's just so important to stick to that, because otherwise you will continue to have this, you would disappoint yourself at the end of the day. And even if that means you will lose a friend, or you will lose a partner that's a bit more heavy, I understand that because I've gone through this. But at the end of the day, you don't want to lose yourself, because this is the worst of all. So in a way, you can think of it like that other people's emotions, you can take it as information, but you don't have to take them on as your responsibility. And I said to a friend of mine this week as well, what you can do is like try and build this emotional fence, like a, you could almost see it like you have your emotional bubble, and it's like surrounded by a, yeah, by a fence or like something. And then you have this vision of the other person, it's their emotional field that you don't have to carry. You can care for them for sure, but you don't have to carry their emotions. And I also want to say that when you are at the period right now where you learn to set boundaries, and you are perhaps in a friendship, in a family dynamic, or even in a partnership, and now you start to communicate your boundaries, of course the other person will be like, huh, what's happening now, like why are you like this? But I personally, like, I think a lot of people think that boundaries push people away, but healthy boundaries actually reveal where love actually exists. Because maybe you have a person, the opposite person, like whoever you set the boundary to, maybe they don't understand immediately, and they feel hurt and they feel disappointed. And that's totally human, and we should also allow for that feeling to be there and to understand them as well. But, and here's the important distinction, I believe that if the person truly loves you, they would want to understand where you are coming from, maybe not immediately, but they can have their time to digest things, but they will come back and say, actually, like, it's no one is perfect, and relationships, like in whatever dynamic, can be really messy. But I just feel like where love truly exists, then the person would want to understand your point of view as well, and they would, whatever it takes, to also meet you in the middle, understand you, and show you the respect that you deserve as well. So, yeah, I think this is what I wanted to say about boundaries. And at the end of the day, every time you avoid keeping a boundary just to keep someone else comfortable, teaches you to become less comfortable by being yourself. And this will just lead to huge unhappiness at the end of the day. And the longer you wait to speak up, the more unfulfilled you feel, and the more you probably also will be upset with yourself at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's a choice you have to make. It's a choice of, do you want to stay true to yourself and live in alignment with who you truly are? Or do you want to live for someone else to make them feel more comfortable? And I can only tell you my experience. Speaking up, yes, it's not easy, but it makes it easier when you communicate it in a way that doesn't make the other person necessarily feel judged, or like you literally speak from your heart, and you speak with empathy. But then the rest, it's none of your business anymore, and you will feel free and relieved. It's a new experience that you will have if you have struggled to set boundaries in the past, but it's totally worth it. And I can only recommend you to always staying true to yourself and living in alignment. And as long as you do it with integrity and, yeah, communicate it in a caring way, then you do everything you can, right? So this is all I wanted to say about boundaries. I hope this video is helping you to set healthy boundaries and to communicate it in a clear and healthy way. And if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram or via my email. I have my email written in the description. Please feel free to always reach out and share your thoughts with me. And I will see you next week for, I think this is one of my favorite topics. And this is the foundation to everything that evolves from who you are.